Hello everyone, welcome to another film review with me and Charlie.
Hello.
Hello, and this week we are going to be reviewing Saint Fraances, which is available on Netflix and possibly somewhere else, but that's where I found it.
Yeah.
And well, I basically watched this yesterday and enjoyed it. There you go, that's all I can say about it.
That's a good start. Yeah,
um,
I watched it over Christmas, in between Christmas and New Year, and that horrible slump period where no one has anything to do or say to each other. And I loved it. I really loved it.
Yeah, it's got a good story, good cast. It's well made. It's all the things I look for. I mean, the main thing I look for when I watch a film is does it have a storyline that I can follow. It doesn't matter what genre of film it is, as long as it's got a story that doesn't suck, I like it. And this had a good story.
Yeah, and I think what's quite amazing about this film is it tackles a number of really, really big issues without there feeling like there's like a massive amount of action going on. It kind of builds and builds and builds. We've got menstruation, abortion, birth control, lesbian parenting, interracial couples, postnatal depression, maternity leave, like all these huge, huge issues. But it does everything in a very realistic, authentic way, so it doesn't feel like things are as much of a big deal as maybe they would be in another film,
Yeah, it
if
doesn't
that makes
threaten your
sense.
face. If this was like released in the 90s, everyone would be like, "Oh my god, an interracial lesbian couple, menstruation." It's like, ah, they probably would have been on all the tabloids. And now, because it's a reflection on society as well, how we've moved on, and it's just sort of there. A lot of people haven't even heard of it, which in a way is a good thing that they haven't heard of it. If you get what I mean, do you understand what I mean?
Yeah, well, I guess it's the directorial debut of Alex Thompson for a feature film. I think he's done a lot of work on short films. And Kelly O'Sullivan, who plays the lead actress Bridget, it's the first time she's written a script, and she wrote this amazing film. So it's like an independent film that's been doing really well in the festivals. And I guess with the year we've had with everyone being in lockdown, it made sense to go kind of to Netflix straight away because cinema releases just aren't happening in
They're
the
not.
same way.
No, I mean, I don't know what's going on with cinema. I mean, I like for example, like I've been looking forward for James Bond. That's had a third delayed release. I'm thinking, cinema just isn't the way forwards anymore. Like that's the new world, and like Warner Brothers, I think is releasing everything on stream at the same time as cinema. So it's just the world we live in now. Has to go to stream.
Yeah, there's been a lot of really good stuff that's gone up recently, and I know this film had been hotly tipped by people like Mark Commode, and like the film buffs are all saying this is
That
a
is
really good film.
actually where I got this film from. Was from Mark Commode.
He loved it.
Yeah, I've got a whole list of films that I'm going to watch, and pretty much all of them are recommended by Mark Commode. Right, so at the beginning, as the film opens, you see Bridget, and there looks like they're at a party or something, and she's having a conversation with this man whose name I've no idea. He's not important to the story. He's only in one scene, and he's just talking about how crap his life is and how shit it is. And like for me, the opening of a film is quite important because if I will watch a film, if I'm not engaged within the first few minutes, I'm like, really? Do I want to watch all of this? But because this film, it was weird because it got me interested, but then at the same time I was thinking, is this how it's going to set the tone? This man talking about how bad his life is, but then Bridget moves away from him, finds somebody else, and you never see him again. And I was kind of a little bit relieved, but I think it was kind of a metaphor for he was expressing his life, but that was how she was feeling, but didn't vocalize it.
Yeah, Bridget is definitely, she's stuck in a rut. She's a 35-year-old waitress or server, as they call
Was she
a waitress in
34?
America. Yeah,
Yeah. Anyway, 35, 34, doesn't matter.
same. But yeah, and I feel like I've seen films about women in their mid 30s who haven't got their shit together a lot. And as a woman in my mid 30s who often feels like I don't have my shit together, I'm often like, oh, here we go. Here we go. It's another
Yeah.
so and it's it doesn't feel very hopeful. It doesn't feel like there's too much of a story. But whereas this film was so not like that at all. It was just not what I was expecting. I thought it was going to be she's feeling sorry for herself and kind of angsty type thing, but it's really a journey of her discovering herself. And she gets a job as a nanny for a 6-year-old named Frances, which is where the title Saint Fraances comes from. And so kind of spends the summer with this child as she has an abortion at the same time as when she's working with this child and looking after this child, this family, and those two things running parallel. And the thing that I really loved about it was that you never see an abortion scene or in film where someone just knows what they want and it's a simple for them. I mean,
Yeah.
the choice that's feminism, right? Having the choice to do that and being able to get it done and do it. And normally someone has a change of heart at the last minute and they keep the baby. And I thought it was really bold of them to do that, even though we're in 2020, right? And maybe in the UK we talk about abortion a bit more, whereas in America there's still lots of people that don't believe in it. And I'm sure that was a really
could have very easily ended up with her keeping the baby, then had some soppy music playing, and I've seen that to death. It's like it feels like a Channel 5 afternoon film where they all live happily ever after. But yeah, it didn't do that. And but I mean, to be honest, I would say half the women I know have confessed to me that they've had an abortion, and it's like, don't tell anyone. So it is more common than people talk about. And this film did a lot of things, just making things that are just everyday occurrences to some people, and just made them in the film. Like I mean, how many films can you think of where it shows periods in such detail? I can't think of.
So it was one of the earlier scenes, wasn't it, in the film when they're having sex and she comes on her period. And it's just dealt with in a really funny way. It's not a big deal. It's just a normal thing.
Yeah.
Everyone's cool with it, which is probably how it is that's how it is in real life.
Yeah.
Like, people deal with that all the time. And it was really I mean, from a female perspective, obviously a lot of the issues in the film about motherhood, menstruation, abortion, relationships is really, really female driven. And I'm watching it thinking, oh, I'm so pleased they've represented that. It was really real and authentic. But for you as a male viewer,
well, it didn't bother me. I mean, as you say, it happens to people.
yeah, because I kind of feel like I would hate for people to think this is a film just for women. Do you know what I mean? Whereas I think there's something for everyone.
I enjoyed it. I found it uplifting. I mean, I enjoyed it. I mean, a lot of films, because I watch a lot of films doing for this channel, and some films I watch them and I don't feel anything at the end of it. It's like, oh, that was an okay film, and I talk about it. Other films make me feel really annoyed, but this one I felt uplifted at the end. So, you know, it did its job. I watched it, I enjoyed it. So for me, that's a win.
Yeah, I felt like the pacing of it was really nice.
Yeah.
And that's something that with these kind of super realistic, like it's handheld cameras, very naturalistic lighting and scene, you really feel like you're there.
Yeah.
And I felt like the pacing, it ramps up. Like you're watching it and you're thinking, oh, it's just a slice of their life. We're watching another day. But by the end, there's a huge emotional kind of gut punch that kind of had me crying. And I came away feeling so emotional, but in a good way, like happy tears at the end.
Yeah, because there are at points in the film where you do think, oh, what was her name? I've forgotten already.
Bridget, the main character.
There are points in the film where I think, you know, it's almost like a role reversal, because the guy that Bridget's with has got an emotion diary, and she almost feels emotionless, which is almost like a 180 to what you normally see in films.
Yeah.
But she does have emotions. It comes out at the end. So she was just bottling everything up, and then it came out. But it didn't come out in like a really soppy, over-the-top, dramatic way. Like they could have gone that way, but they didn't. It's like she showed she was a human after all, but in a decent, respectful way. Nothing was over the top and dramatic. I feel like this film could have been made by someone else, and it could have just been so I don't know what's the word I'm looking for. Ridiculous. Just like,
Yeah,
but
I know what you're
everything,
saying.
everything was. It's like she knew what she wanted to portray on the screen, and she did it. It's like I've seen a lot of films where people failed to do that, and she was actually really good at actually. This is what a story I want to tell. This is how I want to tell it, and she did it.
Yeah, I kind of feel like at the beginning you start with her, she's frustrated being a waitress, she doesn't know where her life is
And
going.
we've both been in similar situations,
Yeah,
serving people. We both know it sucks.
yeah, exactly. And I'm so pleased that the ending wasn't her getting her dream job because you find out during the film that she did a college course about to be a writer, and she comes into contact with someone she used to study with, and they were like, "I thought you were going to be a big writer." And I'm so pleased that the ending wasn't she got that writing gig, that kind of material success with work or with relationships wasn't the thing that kind of had the emotional punch at the end. She didn't need a man to save her. She didn't need a good job to come and make her life good.
There's actually very few men in the story. I think there's with the guy she hooks up with, who then there's his flatmate who you've seen like one scene, and then the guitar teacher.
Who is that is the most brilliant character I've ever seen.
Yeah,
So funny.
but this was a good film, and they weren't trying to. I don't feel like they were trying to push it in your face, saying, "Hey, look, this is made by women. It's starring women. It's about women's issues." And try and push it in your face. They didn't do that. They just made a film. It had a good story. It was well directed, well acted, good scripts, and they I don't feel they were trying to have an agenda or anything. They were just making a film which turned out nice.
Yeah, it felt really authentic, and I also really loved that the the lesbian couple that she's nannying for. There's no there's only one instance in the whole film of homophobia, which I think thought with really nicely. And it's not a film of oh their life is so hard, struggle they have being together in this unaccepted society. They that couple and their home are they have issues outside of their sexuality, and they're allowed to be really authentic and deal with a lot of issues like postnatal depression, like maternity leave, childcare issues that heterosexual couples deal with too. And it was really nice to see that, to see them, being given space and time to be kind of fully fleshed out characters, even though they weren't the main characters in the piece.
Yeah, I mean the main character is very much Bridget, and then Francis, and then all this other stuff is kind of just like
Yeah.
it's kind of in the background. It's like this is what happens, but yeah, nothing was made a big deal of it. I think the balance was right on it every level. It's just like because they could have like and then there was a scene with like breastfeeding, and they could have made that a bigger deal. Like this woman was
Yeah.
upset, and I was thinking, well, most people are beyond that now. But obviously, there's still some people, and they resolved the issue. They could have turned it into a big hoo ha, but they managed to resolve the issue, and but again, it was just highlighting things that happen in everyday life for most people. Well, not most people, not most for most mothers. Right, so yeah, I think from that you can basically tell we recommend it. So we both found it on
Yeah.
Netflix. It might be somewhere else. I'm not sure. I don't know if Netflix has got exclusive rights to it, but if you do find it, highly recommend it. It's how long is it? It's just under 2 hours, isn't it? It's about an hour. Doesn't say on here. Yeah, it's not too long a film. Actually, it felt like quite a long film when I was watching it, and but it isn't too long. It's a standard average length film, but I think there's a lot going on, so it feels longer than it is, but in a good way. Because
Yeah,
sometimes
I
I
didn't
watch
want
a
it to
film,
end at any point.
yeah, yeah, it was kind of you just wanted to see how things progressed. I mean, but yeah, so go watch it, or don't go watch it. Stay at home and watch it. I usually
Yeah.
say go watch it, referring to go to cinema, but Can't
No,
do
please
that.
stay in and watch it on your own.
Yeah, I mean, I watched it on my own. It will also be good to watch with other people. It's the sort of film you could watch with other people. I reckon if you've got a bunch of like lads, they probably might. You know, some of them might go "Ugh," at some of the scenes, but they shouldn't really. I mean, I know some blokes are a bit backwards, so they might not like some of the scenes, but generally, I mean, it doesn't like shove anything in your face. It's like, this is what happens. Basically, if something comes out of Bridget, you see it. I mean, she blocks up the toilet in one scene.
It's all really natural.
Yeah.
It's not like gross out for the sake of being gross out. It's like showing what it
Yeah, so,
actually is.
and it's like, I mean, most people can relate to having a blocked toilet at some point in their life. It's not the sort of thing you see on a film usually. If you liked this film review with me and Charlie, click like, and I will see you again soon at some point in the future, maybe Charlie again, depending on what films I'm reviewing.
We need to review a film that I don't totally love, because the last two I've done with you, I've been like, I loved it.
Yeah, both films we've done you loved. All right, I'll try and find something you won't like. I'll watch it first, and if I hate it, I'll be like, Charlie, you have to watch it. I will find you a film that you won't like.
Great, can't wait.
Cool. All right, until then, bye.